those magnificent men in their flying machine. They go up to the up, up, they go down to the up, down.
Hi, right. This one I've thought I'd do, and this is mainly for Ian as well, because Dean's going to be a bit upset now because he hasn't got his on his puppeteer. But anyway, that's the thing. Right, here we go. If I'll point out something. If you bring the camera lady, brings it over. I'm looking. This is the real puppet. This is the real Sopwith puppets at Shuttleworth. And I'm trying to get as much detail on mine as there is to it. So I'm at the moment concentrating on where my thumb is. This is the footwell, so the pilot climbs into on the fuse, obviously to get into the plane. Right, so to copy that, I've obviously bring it over to the fuse here. I've obviously you line up the fuse if you have, but I know roughly where it is. So if you need, you can use the wing ribs as a guide when you've put the whole thing together. But that's where it sits, and this is how it's going to come out. What I'm on about, this little piece of metal here. Right, so we'll take you through it. The first thing basically is you put a piece in here. This is basically so when it comes to covering the plane, when you cut your hole out, because on the real one there is a hole in the actual canvas. So obviously you put his foot in, and that gives you something to wrap the covering around. You know, stick it to it before you put your plate on. So as we go with this, what I've happened just to happen to have a piece of a little tin, or what I've used in the past, get a beer can or a Coke can and anything like that, and just cut it and open it flat. Okay, then you find your straight edge, get to the thing. Bear in mind that you can follow, if you want, you can follow the leading bottom edge of the longer on, but don't forget that when you're on it, don't draw it so it's straight up, because that's the bit that catches people out. If you notice that's on a slant, because obviously when the plane's sitting normally, it won't be sitting flat, it will be sitting sort of at an angle. So follow your pattern if you need. Right, so get that thing out of the way. So I mean, you could do it rough, it doesn't matter. I did mine quite rough. So like I said, draw on the inside of the can. If you've got like the stuff, this has got blue film on it so you can peel it. Otherwise, get your Coke can or beer can and turn the nice shiny bit the other way, obviously. Now if you want, you can be like, I'll do it quick because the camera time's not long. It's roughly, you keep looking at the picture and get a guide where you are. So you draw your arch just about there, you know. So it won't matter about the markers. And you like say like about up to there. Right, and then you just, you know, formulate it yourself. It doesn't really matter. It can be rough as anything, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you really want to be good, use a ruler, everything else. But personally, I ain't bothered. Right, so then you draw it around like so. This might impress Mr. Barry Clay, because he obviously comes at weird and wonderful things that he comes up with is amazing. So there you go, right, and then you've drawn it out. So there's your rough wheel, right? So that's the easy bit. Right, so you've done that. Oh, right, let's save my pins. So you've got that now. Now, before you do anything, you get your Dremel. This is the tricky bit. Right. I'd wear gloves and glasses, but obviously me being daft, it's probably sensible. You're not going to hear now for the racket. So what you do is you get your Dremel, preferably the smaller the wheel the better, but this is where it's done. Gently go around it. Right, you got it basically. Hold up to the light so you can see there's no gaps and no blockage. You've done that bit right, and it gets, if you're cold hands, you'll soon be warm after this, I'll tell you that. Now what you do is you've got that bit there, okay, and I'd get a piece of wire cutters. These are actually garden shears, but they do their job just as good. And then you cut as near to it as you want. It doesn't really have to be perfect. This is what I did. So you cut it out. Basically you cut it rough like that. Okay. And then if you want to save your metal, which to be honest with you I'm not bothered now, okay, you go like that and you just go like that, so right, oops, right, you got that, and then trim it round as near as you can, so you got it like so. Okay, now you've got a rough shape. Right, now this is the bit that gets everyone, hence why I said wear gloves for God's sake, but if you don't, you don't. Right, now you get to your sander. Right, careful, that'll hurt. Okay, you've got that now. Here's the trick. I mean, I've done it quick. I'm going to obviously take your time. Now, because it's right, as you will see on there, it folds in. This is your foot plate. And here's the trick. So now you get a piece of hardwood. Obviously, I'm not going to cut this because I'm going to keep it. I think hardwood there. Okay. Now, you want to make your lip, because this is going to be, that's the same width basically as your longer one, or more or less there. You get a pair of mole grips. And you clip them on like so. That's one. Preferably you have two if you can. Fiddly, but it's worth it. I had a shorter stick it would help, but there you have it. And you clip them on like that. Okay, right. And then you simply will gently put your thumb in and bend it round the wood like so. There you have it, right. And unclip them. That's damaging anything. Don't need that anymore. Right, now it looks really crap, yeah? So you think. And then obviously if it's your Coke can, you do it backwards, because you don't want your marker pen on there. Right, now there's your pull your peel off. If you don't have this, like I said, let's reverse. So you got it like that now, right? And you think, well, if you really want to be plush with it, not that anyone's going to see this, but then if you want to tidy it up a bit, get your second Dremel. Alright, just gently go around it, clean up the edges. Healthy. Right, almost there, not too bad. Like I said, if you were doing this, take your time and wear safety goggles and all that jazz, because it is important, unless you're used to it like me, and even then it's still dangerous. Right, so now this will be a solid piece. Right, I've obviously done this, but you're right. So what you do is you get your scalpel or any cutting implement. Use this, you press down on it like that, where you want it, see? And that will give you the mark roughly where, obviously there you do it, yeah? So this one more or less fits in. And then once you cut out gently cut out the slice there, so this will fit in. And once you've got it where you want, because obviously I made the other one to fit, draw around this with your pencil. Draw around that, just draw around the hole with a pencil. And then cut it out with the scalpel. And then if you want, get your Dremel and gently sand round with this in place, like I did with that one. And you sand round and put it in place. And then that way, when you come to covering the plane, and that, you already have the mark there, and just cut it rough around the hole. And then that will go on, and it will look like the real thing. Okay? And that's basically that trick. And that will it will go lovely, and it's done. And that's that there. But that's basically that. So, I mean, you don't have to with a pup, but I mean, that's what's on it. And then as I go along, there's other little tricks to show you, like the same sort of thing. I'll bring you back to the picture. The same thing here, like where you've got the panel there on both sides, that is. I don't know if you can see it with that camera and that all, but I'll come to that later, because again, that'll be beer cans or Coke cans will do this a treat. And I'll also show you how to age the aluminium, because obviously it's going to be brilliantly shiny, which is not what you want. Okay, I thought I'd put this on. This is the battery tray. I thought I'd do a bit of a, make it look a little bit pretty, not that you'd see it, but it does do the job. And obviously I've cut it all out and used the offcuts and reversed them and stuff, so it fits in like this all. And then underneath I'll put, when I clip it into the fuse, I'll put a ridge, oh, I'll put it down, I'll put another bar there once it's in situ, which it slides in, and then once it's all in and I've got everything ready and done, I'll secure the back with probably a little tie wrap or something like that, or something you can release, like a bungee. My missus is boggle, that's what they call it, for that, or something like that when I get to it. But that's basically it. Okay chaps, this is probably the most scariest bit of the build, concerning like you only have one go at it. This is a picture of the real pup that I'm using as a guide to get as much detail on the model as I can. This is obviously the cowl, the engine cowl, and I managed to take a few pictures. There's different, about 3 or 4 to get a right angle. So what you do is you basically, you mask off your bottom of your cowl like so. If you can see it in this light, it might be better there. And then as I've done, I've not like, you can measure it if you need to, but I've gone by my eye, roughly looking at it where it should be. It's probably not perfect, and as you can see, you can make change it. It's not mistakes, it's just like alteration as you go along. And then what you need to do after you've got it marked out and you're happy with it, like, you will use your Dremel with your little cutting blade. Now the idea, I keep the smaller ones, the smaller they get as a cut, the ideal for doing the little corners here. So start for the big one, and then you basically go around the outline of it. The reason it's also marked is, one, it's easy to mark, and 2, it holds the cut for you, you know what I mean, you don't slip off the shiny steel. And like I say, take your time with this, because you only get the one chance, unless you've got a spare cowl, and if you have, keep it, because you didn't get them. So, well, next stage I'll show you will be probably it cut. I've done the top, which was sad, but that had to be done. So that goes in, that will fit in, it does fit, just I've got one hand as usual, and that'll fit around the engine cowl. So me and Dean, we've got Dean Farr, bless him, we've got exactly the same thing now. So, well, never mind, that's life. Anyway, okay, so let's get on with it, and I'll show you the outcome. Any questions, just, oh yeah, to get the nice straight lines, use something bendy, like a nice piece of straight thin ply, or I used an old nail file, and you literally wrap it round the metal like with your hands. If you've got something to help you, even better, but if not, you got it round your hands. It's so hard to do this with one hand, like so, and then you obviously mark it down with a pencil, and then you draw your guidelines afterwards, yeah. And then the top one, I just use the outer rim, the inner rim of the cowl, and run it with a thing and pencil like that. And then the bottom one the same, because you just reach it. And that's how I got them to that straight. And obviously you keep checking like before you cut, and you go for it. Right, so like I said, there's your line out. You get a Dremel. Personally I'd wear gloves if you want, but I'm used to it and I should wear gloves, but I ain't got them here. So, and wear glasses, especially with this stuff. So here we go. Just gently follow the line down. That way you've now got your general cut, so you, like I said earlier, you won't slip now. You've done it lightly, so you've got a groove. Don't worry about the ends, you come to them and let. I might add in the last thing, well, obviously I've cut the top out. To mark it all out even, I put a piece of tape there, so you get your centre line for both sides of your diameter of your cowl. So you know where you're marking that out. I forgot about that. Anyway, here you go. So now we'll carry on. I might add as well, as I'm doing it, you notice, I always do it away from me, because if you try and do it that way, it will slip, and it might go into you or make a nasty mess of the cow. Alright, get the angles now. I might add this thing on the end of this Dremel. It's like a diamond tip cutter, only about £3 for two, and I've had that for God knows how long. It's a brilliant thing, but it depends what you have or what you're used to, but that's what I use. So I use to get this off. Alright, the end of that piece. Alright, now we change to this one, the small one like I said earlier. Right, that's them roughly cut now, and what you do is you change your tool, and that's basically the same thing. I'm going to bore you with it all. Put that in your Dremel and that'll polish around the edges to get them nice and round, and then remove your tape and you will see it all look reasonably like the real thing. Well, there you have it. I've cut out now, so that's what I mean by the smiles. And obviously if I work round, you can't really see it in this light, but there's the engine mount. So the thing is, I've worked out as well, looking on the original, they never had bright shiny stuff like this in their day, you know, chromey or whatever you want to call it. It's high polished aluminium. So what I did with my last one was, I got fine emery paper, and wet and dry actually I used, and I rubbed it all down to get the silvery dull effect, which is what I'm going to do with this one. It's a shame because they are pretty shiny, but either way, that's how it works. And obviously you've got your lip on the inside to hold it in place. So that's it. So when it's all down, it won't be so noticeable on the top here. Well, that's my plan anyway. Jelly. So that's the way it goes. So it just gets on there like so. I can get her off, sort of try and then you get a front end view of it, but don't break the bloody thing. So you see, and that's how it is on the real one. Hey, look at that! I finally got the two bits together. So obviously I've glued it here, if you can see, it's all glued inside, and then you'll see that if I look at it that way, you see that the sides stick out. So you chamfer those, just chamfer them with a plane or sand on both tops, top and bottom, to make it flush with the sides. And then you can put infills in here to strengthen it. And then what I always do is, because I'm paranoid about the thing, I'll put another, where the join is here, I'll run a seam down there, so that you've got a piece of join there to make it more solid. So that, I'll leave that to cure, and that's it for the rest of the day, because I've got other things now. So that'll be cool. And that's the one, isn't it? So now it's starting to look like an air fuselage, sort of. Yeah, cool. Da-da-da! Fantastico. Okay then, chaps, bye.
Those magnificent men, those magnificent men, those magnificent men in